Hello everyone, and welcome to the world of Taisho-era Japan and demon summoner Raidou Kuzunoha, or Kuzunoha as pronounced in English in the game. These are the main points I want to talk about today. Is Raidou of interest to those who have not played Shin Megami Tensei before? Conversely, is it of interest to existing Shin Megami Tensei players who haven't had access to Raidou before? Then, what are the updates and differences compared to the original PS2 version? And I want to take a close look at the remastered graphics. My discussion of these topics is made possible by SEGA kindly sending me a game code. Thank you. As always, I try very hard to avoid story and plot spoilers, so most of the footage you'll see is from chapters 1 and 2, which provide an ample overview of story background and the essential gameplay mechanics and features. My gameplay footage is recorded on PlayStation 5, and I'll say straight away the game runs beautifully at 60 frames per second without hiccups or issues. As usual, I'll home in on issues of interest to me, and I hope you'll enjoy the discussion.
Been over 60 years since the Meiji Restoration. The capital, once known as Edo, well, let's just say it's growing fast. These days, it's all about being modern. Cash and science are king. No one has room in their hearts for spirits, gods, and the supernatural. But, make no mistake, to this day, they lurk in the shadows, watching and laughing at us.
Raidou, who is an academy student, takes on detective duties. And what starts out as a simple case of a missing girl soon turns into a spider web of mysterious events. It's a story with twists and turns that keeps me engaged, even after nearly 20 years.
Yes, this is the Narumi Detective Agency. Nothing better to do. Guess we're on the case, Raidou.
Raidou is our classic silent protagonist.
Raidou!
Events quickly escalate, but all your tutorial training cannot prevent
obstacles shall be eliminated.
The tentacles of the dark realm extending into Tokyo's human world. That's it. I'm not going to go any further into the story itself. I really don't want to spoil the fun for you.
Just a peep about that incident from yesterday.
The Kuzunoha can't stand idly by with those things prowling the capital.
Great, then if that's settled, I'll leave the investigating to you, Raidou. I'd go, but it's easier for you anyway. What with those demons of yours and all.
It's not that simple, you clod.
See? Gouto says, "Meow, you're so smart." Not that I speak cat or anything.
Ignore him, Raidou. Let's just get to work.
The agency is your operational hub, where you can automatically recover your health, save, and also access the incredibly useful and important detective journal. And I'm not saying that lightly. I have gone back to it many times and reread entries. It's one of those games where the basics are easily grasped, but if you want to delve deeper and figure out the finesse of the game, you need a bit of patience and to do a bit of learning, as with any good game.
Stop by Konoya down the street before looking for that girl.
Here is our base of operations in Tsukudocho, and the game always gives you heaps of information, most of which I really recommend you do read. Gouto, by the way, is always scribbling away his notes. The map is also very good. Between the map, your detective notebook, plus on-screen prompts, you will never be at a loss where to go and what to do. You see how much detail there is in the environment, and the textures in particular are hugely improved over the original. Here is a photo I took of this building when I played the PS2 version. I rest my case. I think it's instructive taking a look at Nocturne, which was a straight remaster 4 years ago. I think you'll see the difference to the Raidou Remaster straight away. We have to make allowances for the fact that Nocturne is 3 years earlier than Raidou, and that the design is simpler and more stylized than in Raidou. I love the design concept in Nocturne, but I think you can tell straight away that the remastering is not quite of the same quality level as we're seeing in Raidou. For me, the environmental graphics are always the giveaway, and we see a focus on simple shapes and flat textures. We notice this in particular in an outdoor area with grass and shrubs and trees. The choice of a cel-shaded art style suited the game really well, and it means it aged really gracefully. I am quite happy with this remaster. However, for Raidou, they faced a greater hurdle in terms of graphics remastering. You do notice that the character models are very much PlayStation 2 era, the way they look and move, but they have cleaned them up, all the graphics, and movement also looks a bit smoother to me than in the original. I don't mind this, I suppose you could call it, dated look from the PS2 era. In fact, I really enjoy it. But that's of course entirely a matter of personal taste. Add in the modern level performance, a smooth action, no lags, no stutter, and this game is a joy to play. One slight drawback I need to mention is the fixed camera from the PS2 era. I still get tripped up turning around corners with the shifting angle and often just double check via the map. So if you haven't played older games, that might take a little bit of adjustment, but it's not too bad. And the camera is good at following you. It never felt choppy or like I was facing the wrong direction. Always watch out for sparkly items. They are quite valuable, and I have found that I very rarely actually need to buy any stuff in the shop.
Trinkets from all over the world end up in Konoya, the capital's finest antique shop.
I'm really enjoying being able to wander around the city, talking to people, exploring the facilities. Because in the original game, you couldn't do that. There was an endless stream of random encounters which were difficult to avoid there in the streets. And that was one of the big bugbears I had about the original PS2 game. This is so much better. Obviously, it was a big job readjusting all the fighting and leveling up, etc., which now all takes place in the main dungeons, as well as in side dungeons that are called Arrow Rifts, and other occasional events and side quests. Now we'll use one of the special investigation skills that all demons have. Fire demons have Ignite, and suddenly Detective Kazuma Sounds like a different person. And here's another demon skill, use force, being used in unexpected ways to help an elderly person across the road. How did I find 10,000 yen? That's a fortune in the Taisho era. You just need a demon of the Vault Order. I've got a Gathian bobbing around there in the background. And they've got the skill Investigate. And once they've investigated, the sparkle will be visible. The fast travel system is unlocked very early on, and any points you haven't explored yet, you can get to via the streetcar.
Their skills have improved, Raidou.
There is a good range of difficulty settings. For the purpose of preparing this video, I took the slightly easier gumshoe option. SMT games tend to be on the tougher side, so having an option that sits somewhere between easy and standard is very appealing. Especially, of course, if you are new to the Shin Megami Tensei experience. And you can change the difficulty literally any time, without penalty.
Nani?
As the sun shines, so too does it cast shadow. Such is the law of the heavens and of the earth. Likewise, where lies man, so lies dark. We exist to vanquish that darkness. Young one, first you must state your name.
And that is, of course, Raidou Kuzunoha, our silent protagonist. You see the detail, the light and shade, and reflection on his gear, and of course the 8 summoning tubes, which I showed you in my unboxing video. This is the opening tutorial. It's quite a long one, it's very thorough and very good, teaching you most of the basics you will need throughout the game for fighting successfully. I'll try and segue straight into my number one question. Will this game appeal to players who are not familiar with Shin Megami Tensei? Well, I don't have a crystal ball, of course, but there is one reason why I think it might appeal to a lot of people, and that is it features a very exciting action combat system. Most of the Shin Megami Tensei games, and Persona as well, are of course turn-based systems, but this game is most decidedly an action game. That's why I think it might possibly have a wider appeal. If you love action RPGs in particular, I think you might want to take a look at this one. And for those among you who count themselves as devotees of turn-based SMT, I hope that what I'm going to explain about the basic combat will give you enough insight to determine whether this is for you or not. But I often hear people say, isn't Shin Megami Tensei all these Japanese monsters and weird stuff about summoning demons? Yes, it is, and it all makes a lot of sense. I think we live in strange and extraordinary times, and a game like this, also set in a strange and extraordinary era, might now have a special appeal, because it holds up a magic mirror, saying, you think this is weird? Take a look at your own times. I say, give it a go. You might be surprised. And remember, the Shin Megami Tensei universe is overflowing with deities and demons from the whole world library of mythology. please do not skip the tutorial, because there has been a comprehensive combat overhaul. But the mechanic of capturing a demon is still the same, albeit much smoother and a bit easier to execute now. Let's have a look at this.
Hey, what's the big idea calling me Ukuba, the badass who keeps the boilers of hell burning to this dump?
One of the high points in SMT games is the humour centred around the demons. Humour is, of course, always a question of personal taste, but I personally find all this very endearing. And the whole collecting a demon spiel I find as addictive as Pokemon. Most characters and demons are now voiced in this remastered edition. And here is the art of capturing or confining a demon. Press R2 and circle button. But hey, that would be almost too easy, eh? Raidou needs to be of a higher level than the demon. And even then, it's not always straightforward. I'm trying to confine him, but something is not working. I have run out of mag in my repeated attempts. So let's take the Pokemon approach and weaken Ukuba until he is ready to submit. Honing your technique for recovering magnetite during battle is really important. Raidou has both a sword and a gun. The controls for these weapons are straightforward and pretty much as you'd expect in an action RPG. It's of course nice and easy when the demon just stands there and waits patiently to be confined. So this is your first demon in the game, and Ukuba is jolly useful. A very slick graphics effect. After the trouble I had with confining Ukuba, I decided to check the game settings, and sure enough, there is just one accessibility setting, but it absolutely saved my bacon. You have to mash that circle button like a maniac, so I opted to set it to hold, and immediately it was so much easier. Demons like talking, and there's usually a question you have to answer when you confine them. We now get the basic advice on how to handle your demon on the battlefield with this very slick cutscene.
Come forth!
The zombies tremble in fear. For quick access to your demons, you can use the D-pad. You see Ukuba there on the left, but it's restricted to switching skills to use yes or no. Here is the options button menu with command, and that shows you the demon skills you can individually pick and focus on. The skill is focused automatically already on the right enemy. While Ukuba does his stuff, I get Raidou to use the gun. Very easy with L2 and R2. I did note that the elemental bullets from the original game are gone. They're just silver bullets. And you know, I'm actually relieved about that because I found them awkward. They had to be specially loaded. I always ran out of them. They were a bit of a nuisance. I therefore welcome the streamlining, unless they're introduced at a later stage, but I doubt it. I'd rather concentrate on my demons than on fiddly bullets. Raidou gets elemental sword abilities later on, and I will show you that as well. ATLUS have said that this overhauled combat system is mainly based on the second Raidou game, King Abaddon, which I have not played. I still see a lot of similarities to the first Raidou game as well, but if you happen to know the Abaddon game, please let me know whether it looks familiar to you. I decided to focus my stats more on magic and vitality rather than physical strength, which for Raidou is never gonna be the deciding factor in a battle. It's your carefully assembled team of demons that matters.
I believe you will prove worthy of the renowned Kuzunoha title of Raidou.
He's buttering me up before the tutorial boss. A vile creature that goes into a second, stronger phase. Fortunately, the game gives you a second demon, a healing one, so you learn how to handle 2 demons in a boss fight.
I cannot be free until I slay 100 devil summoners.
This turned into a protracted fight.
It's been ages since the village last witnessed a summoner command 2 demons at once.
We now learn the defensive skill Safeguarding. It's essential for keeping your demons alive, and the moment you see 2 exclamation marks above Raidou's head, you should instantly use it. You see the 2 tick marks against the demons now. And that was just the tutorial. You have really good foundation skills here, but from now on the game really opens up, both with events and activities, as well as refining and upskilling the combat.
Ah, what a feeling. Peace at last. I guess you were a true devil summoner all along.
You are the 14th to carry this name. Your birth name shall stay with the village. From now on, you shall be Raidou Kuzunoha the 14th, Devil Summoner. The capital is in your hands.
So, this boy's the next Raidou, you say? Well, if that is what the village wants. Right, you may call me Gouto. It's a pleasure to meet you, Raidou the 14th.
There is a veritable treasure trove of combat skills, upgrades, and add-ons. I can't possibly cover all that here and now, so I'll just pick a few to give you an impression of what's available. This is the combat flow that I'm comfortable with. I hit the touchpad and I inspect the demons, and I take my time doing that. Then I work out which demons to summon and use, and finally which commands they should have. If you set it up well, you should be on top of the combat, and the game also sometimes gives you little hints about what would be an advantageous move. You can see the layout for the D-pad, bottom left. Top is for items, bottom is for summoning. Left and right are your 2 demons, where you can very quickly set them to either use skills or do not use skills. The combat has a sort of stop and go kind of flow, in that you alternate between a very fast, often frantic action combat and then stop, because you may need to change out a demon, summon a different one, or you may need to check the commands for individual types of actions you want to specify. I learned it's important not to rush that. Take your time. I have never had any blip or fault in stopping and starting. It's practically seamless. I'm showing you this with early gameplay footage because with just a few demons it's easier to see what's actually happening. If you have a lot on the field, it can sometimes be difficult. Having the right elemental strength demons and managing them properly on the battlefield really is the key to success in this game. It doesn't matter so much that I'm not terribly good at Raidou's combat skills, because it's my demons that do the heavy lifting. This particular game flow, which reminds me just a little bit of a real-time strategy with its stop and start, is the only reason I can think of why someone who likes action games might not be interested in playing this one.
Good.
There are two powerful attacks Raidou learns early on, and the first one is called Devil's Bane. You use two face buttons together, a bit like in a fighting game. So here we go. He definitely flinched. I think I'm breaking his shield. And now the final one, and yeah, Tsuchigumo is not an easy opponent. You may remember he appears quite early on in Soul Hackers 2, where I think he is a far weaker monster. I have one problem with Devil's Bane. I find that the window for hitting the button combo is very narrow. It's almost like a very tight QTE. However, I find the second special skill much easier. And this is my favourite powerful skill for Raidou, the Spirit Slash. You hit triangle and circle together. It's super effective. Here it is, ready. And in the heat of battle I didn't notice and didn't use it. I love doing those somersaults. For Raidou, skills are tied directly to his weapons. So here you see he's just acquired the Frost Sign. This gives Raidou some elemental clout, but you can't really compare it with the demon's elemental power, which I would say is always the better and stronger option. It's never wrong to go back to basics, so I just want to re-emphasize how important it is to constantly alternate and vary between different forms of attack, mainly gun and sword usage. The gun doesn't need to be reloaded, so it's really quick and easy to use. Just be aware that some demons are completely resilient to bullets. With the sword, you don't have just your standard light and heavy attacks, but there are a lot of variations. Some basic sword combos, but my favourite is doing a lunge attack, simply charging forwards while using the light attack button. You can also jump and use the sword. What's really cool is you can use the left stick with different motions while using the sword, and you get some really awesome looking maneuvers. Finally, there's something called the Devil's Feint, which is a dodging move, and you simply dodge forward using the left stick, and you barrel through the opponent to their back while not taking any damage. There's also a symbol attack called Stealth Strike. So it's well worth exploring the Detective's Handbook for these finer points if you fancy that sort of thing. If you don't and just want to stick with the basic combat, that's absolutely fine too.
Good.
I love fusion. It is, after all, the core of the Shin Megami Tensei gameplay. I'd been waiting for this message for so long. I remember that in the original game you got access to Victor's lab where you can fuse demons quite early on in the game. It seems to me they shifted it into the latter part of Chapter 1, which is very long, and I had too many demons by then, and without the ability to register them, you're kinda stuck. So this came just in the nick of time. This is just one of a whole range of smaller instances where the developers recalibrated many event sequences. Welcome to Victor's Lab, Goumaden. Please enjoy this little cutscene.
Welcome to the Goumaden. What can I do for you, Kuzunoha? The Devil Chart catalogues the level, learned skills, and other statistics of the demons you've commanded.
Clearly a mad genius. So let's just have a quick look at how the fusion system is organized in this game. Here is Victor with the result of fusing 2 demons in 2 cages side by side, and we get Turbo Granny.
Charmed, I'm sure.
Oh, yes.
I love that the demons that are being fused, and they know what their fate is, leave a letter for Raidou. So here's the menu for the different tasks at Goumaden. The main one is, of course, fusion, but the Devil Chart is also incredibly important. It's your register. I always go there first.
Shall I register all of them?
After every dungeon run, to make sure I don't forget to update the registration of my demons, most of whom will have leveled up. If you do a lot of fusion, you will constantly need a fresh supply of demons. They need to be resummoned, and that costs money. You definitely don't want to be stuck with an old, outdated version of an important demon, so make sure you always update the registration. Here I purchase and re-summon a Gathian, an incredibly useful demon, especially early on.
I've summoned your demon.
There is also a premium Devil Chart, and this is such a good idea. I think it's a new feature. It's very pricey buying slots, but I have invested in it because it's so useful being able to keep duplicate demons. Something you can't do in a lot of the other SMT or Persona games.
Blessed are we to meet.
It's so important how the interface for fusion is organized. The normal fusion here is perfectly serviceable, but my favorite type of fusion is reverse fusion. This is really nicely organized, and with those big picture tiles, it's really easy to pick out which ones you can fuse and then which options are available. Here is the fusion of early game demons Ippon Datara and Mermaid. Some people like to do 100% demon fusion compendium. Others just pick and choose carefully and just do a few. It's entirely up to you. Save points in dungeons allow you direct access to the Goumaden. Incredibly handy if you're stuck without the right type of demon. I hope you found this reassuring that fusion is not too complicated in this game.
Enhance your blade, Kuzunoha, and you may obtain any number of passive skills. The best way to learn about sword alchemy is to try it for yourself. What can I do for you, Kuzunoha?
It's pretty straightforward, as you can see. You just got to have the right materials and then you can take your sword one step further. I haven't done too much of this alchemy yet, so can't really say how truly useful it is, but it is certainly fun and interesting to do. I think it might be another new feature, but I'm not totally sure. Maybe someone out there knows or remembers. So my sword will go from a humble Renki to a Bizen or Safune with higher attack stats.
So we'll use that blade and those materials?
Yes, and what we end up with is not just a stronger sword, but one with extra skills. Some sword skills you are given as a bonus reward for special quests, like from the shrine. But I remember I got the exorcising shell via sword alchemy. By the way, configuration is the list of your active demons, and that's also where you can check their status and passive skills. Very stylish menu design, don't you think? I mentioned the fox statue at the shrine. Be sure to check it out. There are useful goodies you can earn as a reward. And that concludes my gameplay coverage. To me, Raidou Remastered is a game of 3 eras. The original game era of the PS2, approximately 20 years ago, with its incredible achievements, but also still technical limitations. Then the Taisho era of early 20th century Japan, providing the historical background and the period detail in the game. And finally, the modern current era of gaming with its advanced technical achievements, making a remaster like this possible. I like to think of the game as providing a happy coexistence of these 3 eras. It also provides a reminder that we sometimes need to look back to the achievements of the past just as much as its problems.
Ready. Go on. Take it.
After playing the game so far for approximately 20 hours, I see 3 main improvements. First of all, and most immediately noticeable, the graphics. I have looked at this in its own section in detail, and I'm really impressed with what they've achieved here. I often see older games receiving a treatment of too much or harshly applied contrast, brightness, and over-sharpening in particular. I like how they haven't done that, and the graphics have retained some of that original softness. Second, there's the voice acting. Again, I think they've done a terrific job, because I really enjoy the different voices, both human and demons.
What do you want, kid? This is Kanto Haguro territory. It's no playground.
This terrific scene in a bathhouse gave me Yakuza game vibes.
Hold it, smart guy.
The hell do you think you're doing here?
Not bad, kid. But tell me, why wear a hat in a bathhouse?
And third, the work they did on updating and refining the complete combat system. It transforms this game, in my opinion, from an interesting but not always really satisfying to play PS2 game into a real fascinating and rewarding and enjoyable gameplay experience. finally, ATLUS has quite a laundry list of various other improvements that will be of interest especially to those of you who have played the original PS2 game. I hope my coverage has given you at least some of the first impressions and answers you were looking for. As always, thank you for your time. Please keep well. I'm Food for Dogs. Bye-bye.